Hey everyone, my name's Shane and I'm an even bigger playoff baseball fan. Yes, it is October. Yes, it is playoff baseball season. I'm filming this about 3-4 days before the end of the regular season. So in today's video, we are going to break down each potential playoff contender, their strengths, their weaknesses, and what we can look forward to in October and in November from these teams to see who is going to take the World Series championship. Now, in this video, I've got no predictions coming here because we're only guaranteed 10 of the 12 playoff teams. The Padres at the moment are right on the edge of clinching, and we've got a race between the Phillies and the Brewers for the final wildcard spot in the National League. So we'll break down all those teams in this video as well. So as always, I think it's time to get into it. Let's talk playoff baseball. We're going to start things off in the American League and the number one seed in the American League, the Houston Astros. The Astros have been the top team throughout, it seems, in the American League, especially since the All-Star break, and their lineup is something to be feared. Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman. These guys have been there before in big playoff spots. That has to be one of the reasons why the Astros are the top seed here. You look at the rotation, the depth of the rotation. You have to love that ace in there and Justin Verlander. Framber Valdez may be the most consistent starter in baseball this year. And then you throw in a couple others. Lance McCullers can be nasty in the playoffs. We've seen that from him before. Or the potential of a Jose Urquidy or Luis Garcia in the rotation, or even of the bullpen who could make a huge difference for this Astros team. I think Trey Mancini is also a big-time X factor for this Astros team. And the reason for that is home field advantage. The Astros are going to have home field advantage throughout the American League side of the playoffs. And those short Crawford boxes in Houston really are an advantage for players like Bregman and Mancini to go deep. And we know how important power hitting is in the playoffs. We see pitching winning out so often, but it's those big home runs that can really swing a playoff series. And they've got the battle-tested Ryan Presley at the back end of that bullpen. Talking question marks for the Astros, you do have to wonder a little bit about some of the younger guys and how they're going to perform. We know in years past, George Springer and Carlos Correa have really upped their game for the Astros in the playoffs, but those guys aren't here anymore. How is Jeremy Pena going to perform? How is Chas McCormick going to perform? These younger guys, we don't know as much about them. Even Trey Mancini is getting his first day of the playoffs. I think he's going to thrive, but who knows just where this team is going to go. And is the middle of the bullpen going to be strong enough? I think it's a big advantage to drop Urquidy or Garcia back into the bullpen and really help that Astros bullpen, because that may be one weakness they have. Rafael Montero has looked really good, but it's just a different Astros bullpen than we've seen in the past. It's going to be very interesting to see how they can come out. But I think they easily have to be considered the top seed in the American League. And the teams coming through Houston, it really is an advantage for them. And of course, Justin Verlander. You have that dominant ace, that number one guy you can count on. And Framber Valdez may be the best number two in the American League. So I think Houston's got a very good chance of making it to not only another ALCS, but to the World Series. Number two seed, the New York Yankees. We've seen them struggle since the All-Star break. They rolled into the All-Star break as probably the best team in the American League, but they have crumbled in the second half, but have still maintained that number two seed, which means at the very least, someone has got to go through Yankee Stadium to beat them. And I think that's still a huge advantage for the Yankees. When you're talking that mystique of, yes, new Yankee Stadium, it's a really, really hostile environment and can really break some of the best players. Offensively, we got to talk Judge. All rise for the Judge. Aaron Judge has been carrying this team offensively, but he's going to need help in the playoffs because teams will pitch around Judge. We've seen it in the second half where he's really taken off with the home runs, but the batting average has been so strong that teams have just been pitching around him. Giancarlo Stanton has to pick it up or the Yankees are in trouble offensively. Josh Donaldson's had one of his worst offensive seasons. I think DJ LeMahieu is a big piece for this offense, as well as Anthony Rizzo to see what we can get going there. Throw in an X factor like Harrison Bader. He's had some really good moments for the Yankees since getting healthy and coming over from the Cardinals in that trade for Jordan Montgomery. But as always, it's pitching wins championships, and I actually really like the Yankees starting rotation. Luis Severino is back and healthy, and that is a huge advantage. That big fastball slider combination, if they got to go up against the Jays and all those right-handed batters, that's a huge advantage. I think it really fits well against the Astros as well. So Luis Severino is a huge piece. It's now time for Garrett Cole to step up and be the ace that they paid him to be. If he doesn't, oh boy, I don't want to be Cole this offseason. The Yankees are absolutely hating on him. Nestor Cortez is probably the best number 3 starter in the American League if you want to consider him a 3. All those eccentric deliveries, all those crazy windups. It's going to be really interesting to see how he performs in the playoffs. And the Yankee bullpen was so good at the start of the year, but it has injuries. Michael King out for the year. That was a huge, huge loss. Clay Holmes as the closer. That's interesting. Maybe it's a bit of a closer by committee thing for Houston. Aroldis Chapman is borderline unusable at the moment, so we'll see if he can bounce back in the last few games to warrant being in the playoff bullpen. It's going to be interesting. Scott Efros is a guy to watch out for in that bullpen, but Clay Holmes, we'll see if he can lock it down for the Yankees. If he can't, it could be a real short ride for the Yankees this playoffs. Checking into the number 3 seed is going to be the Cleveland Guardians. I actually like what the Guardians have here. I think they can be scary to a lot of teams in the playoffs. The big thing that Cleveland has is pitching and pitching depth in particular. Shane Bieber, Dr. Sticks, Tristan McKenzie, Cal Quantrill. That's as good a 1-2-3 starting rotation as you can have in the playoffs. You throw in Aaron Savali, who could really help that as well. Top 4. Very, very impressive for Cleveland. And they've got the bullpen. You start talking closer and Emmanuel Clase. You start throwing James Karinchak. They have a very sneaky, good bullpen in Cleveland. I like what Cleveland has that they could produce on the pitching side. The question is going to be, can they score enough runs? We know oftentimes in the playoffs, home runs make the difference. Cleveland doesn't hit a lot of home runs. Can Jose Ramirez really impact a series, or will teams pitch around him and attack other guys? I think a guy like Josh Naylor really needs to step up. Ahmed Rosario, Andre Jimenez, not big power guys, but if they can get on base, it really sets the table for a guy like Jose Ramirez, and teams can't pitch around him. Another thing that we talk about in playoff baseball more than ever is speed. And Miles Straw may be one of the fastest guys in baseball. His defense in center field is top notch. I think that could be a real key to a series or plural series for the Guardians. And his speed on the bases can make a difference if he can consistently get on base at the bottom of that lineup to set the table for guys like Jimenez and Rosario at the top. I think Cleveland can be very scary. And more importantly, they're going in the playoffs red hot. They've been in a battle all year with the Twins and White Sox. And then out of the last couple weeks at the end of September, they took off and just aced the division here and took over. I think they are red hot coming to these playoffs. The pitching has been fantastic. They are scoring some runs. I think Cleveland could be a very, very scary team to face in the first or second round of the playoffs. I don't know if they have the talent to go all the way, but I think they've taken a bunch of big steps this season, and we'll see how far they can go. Looks like the number 4 seed is going to be my Toronto Blue Jays. I absolutely think this is a great spot for the Blue Jays because it guarantees they're going to host the AL wildcard, all 3 potential games in that first round, and would set them in as a run through Houston if they win the first round. Lot to like about the Jays on the offensive side. Here in the last little bit of September into October, the offense has been clicking. Bo Bichette has started to hit. George Springer looks healthier. Vlad is still not taken off quite yet. Teoscar's finding his swing. I think the offense is going to be fine. The issue I have with the Blue Jays, just today as I'm filming, Kevin Gausman dealt with a cut on his hand and was taken out of a game early against Boston. That leaves a real hole if he can't go in the playoff series because the Jays are really lacking in starting pitching depth. You have to love if he's healthy. You throw Manoah and Gausman 1-2 and Ross Stripling is the third starter. But if you got to go to Jose Barrios rather than a Gausman, that's going to create a lot of potential problems. One guy I'm really looking forward to seeing in these playoffs is Danny Jansen. Jansen has been absolutely phenomenal the second half of the season. How he's got himself healthy, combining with Alejandro Kirk behind the plate. The two combined are not making mistakes defensively and not giving up free bases, and they're both swinging the bat well. Jansen has just taken off and flourished the second half of the season. And think back to the playoffs in 2020. The one guy who really stepped up playoff time with the bat was Danny Jansen. So I'm really excited to see what he can do for the Jays in the playoffs. Jordan Romano has been locked down for the last little while. as the closer for the Jays. He's looked really good. He's had the occasional bump in the road. The question is going to be, can he perform at playoff time? He hasn't been there before as a closer, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. The two areas that really scare me with the Jays, shortstop defense in big games. Bo Bichette doesn't make a whole bunch of errors, but it seems to be fielding in close games. That's when his errors hit. He gets jumpy at shortstop. That really concerns me going forward. And the other spot is middle relief. Can they bridge the gap between starters and Romano? The only guys that are really popping off right now, Adam Simber has looked good, but Anthony Bass has been knocked around. Tim Mayza has been knocked around. There isn't a lot of depth in that middle bullpen. The one guy that might surprise there is Zach Pop, as he actually has strikeout type stuff. He could really step up big in the playoffs. I like where the Jays are at going in the playoffs. We'll see if they can make a run. Looking like the number 5 seed is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. If that is true, they would have to come through Toronto in a 3-game wildcard series. I like what the Rays have on one side of the ball. Pitching. But can a team win a World Series only scoring 40 runs or so? I don't know if the Rays can score to win consistently in the playoffs. They just don't have the depth in their lineup to really help them through. Randy Arozarena has looked really good in September, and we've seen what he can do in the playoffs, and he can carry a team if he's getting some help with some guys on base in front of him. Harold Ramirez becomes very important in that type of situation. As well, does Wander Franco finally step up as that big-time young prospect that we've been waiting for all year? He's been injured. He just hasn't put it together this year. We'll see if Wander Franco can take off in the playoffs, and what a boom that would be for the Rays. Pitching-wise, Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, Corey Kluber, and the X factor to watch out for. He's back. He's healthy. Tyler Glasnow. If Glasnow can be the guy from years past, oh boy, is that scary rotation the Rays can throw out there. And if Glasnow can't perform consistently as a starter and give depth and meaningful innings, he could be a real weapon out of the bullpen, that stacked bullpen that we always see from Tampa Bay. You throw Glasnow down there as a potential arm out of the bullpen. That could be a real weapon as well. So look for what Glasnow can do in the playoffs. You never know who the closer is really going to be in Tampa Bay, but I think if it came down to a one inning, shut it down, Pete Fairbanks would be their guy, and he has been there before and performed there before. I think Pete Fairbanks is one of the most underrated potential closer out type pitchers. I really like what Pete Fairbanks could bring to that Rays back end of their bullpen. So it's going to be very interesting. The key for the Rays is going to be, can they hit enough to win? We know the pitching will be there. If they can consistently win 2-1 and 3-2, they have a chance of going a long way in these playoffs. Our last team in the American League is the Seattle Mariners. Yes, Mariner fans, you can rejoice. You are back in the playoffs. The big question is going to be, is Julio Rodriguez going to be healthy? He hasn't been playing much the last little bit at the end of September. He needs to be healthy to help carry this Mariners team through the playoffs. Without him, this is not much of an offense. It could be very scary. But if Rodriguez is in there, that makes a huge difference in the lineup. Mitch Haniger has been playing well. Ty Francis had his bumps in the second half of the season, but he's a very, very important bat for this team, and I look for him to really bring it in the playoffs. The real spark plug of the offense could be a Eugenio Suarez. Yes, Suarez strikes out too much. We know that. But in the playoffs, that doesn't play as much if he's hitting home runs. If he can get hot with a bat and give a lot of offensive production there, that will offset any issues with the strikeouts, especially in this playoffs. The thing about the Mariners is that 1 through 4, they may have the best rotation in the American League. We've been talking about the best 2s and 3s, but when you can throw out Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, 1 through 4, that may be the best starting rotation in the American League, so they may not have to score as many runs. And the back end of the bullpen has been decent. Paul Sewell has had some issues through the year, but has really settled down in the second half of the season to really secure that lockdown closer spot with the Mariners. There is a lot to like with that Mariner bullpen. There's some depth there. You throw Chris Flexen back there as a potential long arm guy who could give you 2, 3, 4 innings in a potential game. I really like what that aspect of the Mariner bullpen as well. There's so much to like about this team. They are on a real high. They've been getting hot again going into the playoffs. And we've seen the Mariners go on some extended runs and get red hot through the regular season. If they can carry that run into the playoffs, they could be a real dangerous team. to take a chance to bring a World Series back to Seattle for the first time ever. Time to flip over to the National League. Number one seed, it's been known for so long, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers have been in a massive run all year. Challenge for the baseball record in terms of wins for a season. Didn't quite get there, but you absolutely have to love what the Dodgers have. You take a look at that top three of that lineup. Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. We're talking three potential Hall of Famers to lead off this thing. The Dodgers have been scoring runs at will, it seems, and they've been preventing runs at will as well. This is one area where I'm not sure where the Dodgers go. The rotation is a little banged up. Tony Gonsolin is trying to get back. Dustin May has come back, but hasn't quite been the stalwart that we thought he might be. You throw out Clayton Kershaw, we know what to expect there if he stays healthy. Julio Urias has been unreal. Tyler Anderson has been unreal. The question will be, can Anderson maintain that type of performance in the playoffs? Never having been a top-end guy like this. Maybe he falls back into a bullpen role. We'll wait and see what they do there. The back end of the bullpen, the middle of the bullpen scares me for this Dodgers team. If you're going to get beat, I am worried about the Dodgers getting beat with their bullpen. You look at the back end, is Craig Kimbrell up to the task? Is Chris Martin up to the task to really close it down? I'm not sure. But is it going to matter if they continue to score runs at will? Will Smith may be one of the best and most underrated offensive players at the catcher position. And I guess again and again and again. Will Max Muncy and Justin Turner hit that switch this year? They've been improving in the second half. If they can really flip it and get it going, ooh boy, this Dodger lineup can be scary. But Betts, Turner, Freeman, the Dodgers will go as far as they can be carried by that offense. And can they get enough bullpen help to really solidify the rest of the game for them? I really think the Dodgers have a chance of running through these playoffs and winning another championship. But we've been in this position before, and they haven't done it. The only World Series win being that shortened season. So it's going to be very interesting. Can the Dodgers do it for a full playoffs? To be the best, you have to beat the best. And right now, it looks like the number 2 seed in the National League is going to be the reigning champs in the Atlanta Braves. I think the Braves' offense is better than last year's team. Ronald Acuna Jr. is back, and he's now swinging it. Dansby Swanson has really exploded after last year's playoffs. Matt Olson is exploding. Austin Riley is that same dude who looks like an MVP candidate. What a lineup the Braves have. The question may be the starting pitching. Max Fried is back and really leading the way. Kyle Wright has really taken off this year, but hasn't done it in the playoffs. Neither has rookie Spencer Strider. Charlie Morton could be a big piece to this team if he becomes the number 4 guy out of that rotation or out of the bullpen for the Braves. I think the guy to look out for, Eddie Rosario. Remember Rosario last playoffs? Can he be that X factor and really take off for the Braves? If Rosario hits like he did last playoffs, oh boy, this offense is going to be looking good. And the biggest strength for the Braves may be the depth of their bullpen. Kenley Jansen is locked down. He has done it in the playoffs. We've seen it time and time again. Raisel Iglesias is there in front of him. Tyler Matzik is there in front of him. I think the Braves may have the best back end of the bullpen in the National League, and that can be very scary. If they finish as the number 2 seed, that's even bigger because then you go through Atlanta and they get the opportunity to set up their rotation the way they want, and somebody coming off a wild card win won't have those same opportunities, which could really affect the team that they're beating out at the moment, the New York Mets. I think the offense is going to carry Atlanta. They look so good this season. We haven't had a back-to-back winner in a very, very long time. Is it possible these Braves can go back-to-back for the first time in so long in baseball history? Let's wait and see. Wouldn't it be great to see Albert Pujols, Yadi Molina, and potentially Adam Wainwright walk on in the sunset this season as champs with the St. Louis Cardinals? Cardinals are going to be the number 3 seed in the National League. What a fun playoff that would be. There is so much to like about this Cardinal team. You got Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado leading the way. That spark plug in Tommy Edman is just a real pain all year. Quality hitter, a lot of speed as well. Look out for that potentially in the playoffs. The rotation is what it has always been with the Cardinals. Good, but not great unless it's the playoffs. We have seen some Cardinal teams get red hot and win before, especially being carried by hot rotations. Adam Wainwright, Miles Michaelis, Dakota Hudson, Jordan Montgomery, who's been absolutely phenomenal since coming over for the Yankees. All big-time arms that could do damage in the playoffs. And what if Jack Flaherty got it together come playoff time? He's been back, he's healthier, he hasn't really found the touch yet in the regular season, but if Jack Flaherty finds it in the playoffs, he could be a real asset to the Cardinals as well. They've got a very good bullpen as well when you start combining Giovanni Gallegos and Ryan Helsley at the back of the bullpen. Not really a true lefty guy back there, but the Cardinals have a very solid bullpen, and with a couple of starter guys back there as longmen could be even better. There's a lot to like about the offense. If Tyler O'Neill can be healthy, if you can get Paul DeJong going, there's a lot to like there. And of course, what type of role can Yadi Molina and Albert Pujols play? They've been through the trenches in the playoff series. You have to expect a lot from Molina behind the plate, guiding that rotation and bullpen. Can Pujols be an asset either as a DH or coming off the bench with a big hit against a lefty in particular? He's hit lefties so well all year. He's such an asset potentially off the bench. We'll see what the Cardinals can do, but what a fun story this would be if they can make a playoff run. We're still waiting to see on whether the Mets are going to be the number 2 or the number 4 seed in the National League. I'll put them here at number 4. Taking a look at them, I think Pete Alonso has to be the guy for this team. I'm never big on Francisco Lindor, but maybe he can really elevate his game coming into this playoffs. And there's a lot of really interesting pieces in terms of offense for the Mets. Mark Canha can be a really good piece. Eduardo Escobar, Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil. If Starling Marte can get healthy, I think he's a huge asset, not only on the bases with his speed, but as a defender in center field. Starling Marte is still one of the best in baseball. So we'll see what type of offense we can get from the Mets. They've been really a dink and dunk type of team all year. They haven't had a lot of power, but we'll see if that type of approach can get them farther in the playoffs. The big thing with the Mets is always going to be the rotation. Can Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer really dominate the way they're expected to dominate? They're being paid all that money to win playoff games. Can they do it? They've faltered a little bit here at the end of September and October, which has allowed the Braves to get into first place. Can they perform better in the playoffs? And if they can, then it limits how much we have to see Carlos Carrasco and Taijuan Walker in the playoffs. If they can climb back into the number 2 seed, I really like the Mets because they can set up the rotation the way they want to with DeGrom and Scherzer in a division series. Chris Bassett is probably the best number 3 in the National League. There's a lot to like in terms of rotation. The bullpen is so strong. You start hearing those trumpets playing, and Edwin Diaz has come in to lock it down. Adam Ottavino has had a resurgence this year, had a really good year of that bullpen as well. There is some questions with the rest of the bullpen, but there pretty much is with every other team as well. So we'll see if the Mets can really bring it in the playoffs, or we'll see if they have enough offense. Can the rotation dominate the way they're expected to? If they can, the Mets can go on a real run. If the starting rotation falters, it'll be a short exit for the Mets. The biggest enigma of these playoffs may be the San Diego Padres. They went out and had the big deals for Josh Hader, Juan Soto, Brandon Drury, all those players, all that talent they brought in, and they haven't been very good. I don't know what to expect from the Padres. There's all this talent on their team, but they haven't taken that step to show that they're a true World Series contender. Juan Soto needs to step up and not just be an on-base machine. He needs to be a productive hitter. Extra base hits, RBIs, that's what we need from Juan Soto if they're going to win. Manny Machado just needs to be himself. Continue to play his game. He's been phenomenal all year. Josh Bell has a chance to bounce back. He has been abysmal since coming over from the DL for Washington. Can he be the hitter from the first half of the season? If he can, that's amazing because it just lengthens the lineup for the Padres. Jake Cronenworth can be a better asset that way too. Just gives them more hitters to drive in runs. The rotation I kind of like. Yu Darvish has been there before. Blake Snell has been there before. There's a lot of guys in that rotation that really understand their role. Joe Musgrove has been very good. Mike Clevenger can be very good, and he's been there before. The back end of the bullpen, I don't really know what to expect. Hader's been getting better, but can he be the guy that we expect him to? He's been so dominant all these years for the Brewers, and he just looked out of sorts in San Diego. If Hader can be locked down, that's a huge asset because Hader's not just a one-inning guy. We've seen him in the past go multiple innings and been effective for 2 games in a row. So I think that's really important for the Padres. We'll see if they can score enough runs and if Juan Soto can be the guy. And if he can, we'd like the Padres' potential. Now, The big thing here, the Padres have been absolutely terrible against the Dodgers the last few years. The nice thing would be they wouldn't see them until the championship series if both teams advance that far. I think that's a very good point for the Padres. I think they'd have a better chance of beating a New York Mets or an Atlanta Braves in the second round should they get there. So we'll see what the Padres can do. They've got chances the next few years with Soto and Hader, but I think this may be their best chance and they need to take advantage of it. We still got a battle going on for the last place in the National League playoffs, so we'll talk about both teams. The potential and front runner at that spot is the Philadelphia Phillies. If the Phillies can get in the playoffs, they can be scary because their lineup offers so much in terms of power. Alec Boehm, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber. This team can hit, but they can't field. They are one of the worst defensive teams in baseball. The big thing the Phillies do have going from them, though, they have two top-end guys at the top of that rotation in Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler. And if they can get into a short playoff series, that is a huge potential for them. They don't have a lot of depth after there. Ranger Suarez is probably their number 3, so we'll see what they can do there. The bullpen has actually been pretty good for the Phillies. They've brought in some really good guys. David Robertson has been very good for them. Sir Anthony Dominguez has had some struggles the last couple of weeks, but has been very good the rest of the year. There is a lot of good quality arms in that Philadelphia bullpen. So if they can really get a run, so if they can get ahead in games early and turn things over the bullpen, they have potential of winning playoff series. The question is going to be, can they score enough runs consistently without the long ball? But we know that plays so well in the playoffs with the long ball, and they do have those top 2 starters. So if the Phillies get in, they're going to be a tough matchup, but I just can't see them making a long playoff run. There's too many deficiencies there. The defense just isn't good enough. So we'll see if the Phillies can get in, which they already should have by now. They didn't take advantage of beating up in the Nationals the last part of the year, and now they're in a tough spot going to Houston in the last week to see if they can clinch a spot. So if they can, they've got some potential to win a short series, but there is also the potential we won't see the Phillies at all in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Our last team to look at, they've been one game out as I'm filming this, Milwaukee Brewers. Can the Brewers catch the Phillies for that last playoff spot? If they can they win a series scoring so few runs? The Brewers have struggled all year to score runs. Christian Yelich, Willy Adames, Rowdy Tellez, these guys will hit some home runs. They can score the odd run here and there. They just have a hard time bunching hits together. The pitching, though, could be their saving grace. Do you want to face Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, Eric Lauer in a short series? I don't think you want to. The bullpen has been good. Taylor Rogers has slowly been improving. Devin Williams has been locked down his usual self. So there is a lot of quality pitching for the Brewers, which could win a short series. But just like the Phillies, they don't score enough runs consistently to make a long run in the playoffs. Their defense is a little better than the Phillies, but the question will be always going to be, can the Brewers score any runs? I just don't see them winning more than one series. I could see them winning a short 3-gamer. But any extended playoff run, I don't see it happening against some of the top teams in the National League. But we will see. If the bats can get hot, the Brewers can win games. And with that pitching, it doesn't take a lot of runs to win a lot of games. We'll see if they can put together a performance to get into the playoffs and perform better than the last few years, where it's been very short outs because of that lack of run production. I don't like the chances, but if the Brewers can get in, who knows? Maybe they can go on a run. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. Another video here at 3 Up, 3 Down. Greatly appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit that big red subscribe button. We're getting closer to the end of the year, which means we're just that much closer to hitting our goal of 50 subscribers. Make sure you hit that button and help us. We're only 5 away. I'm going to do everything I can to post as much baseball playoff content as I can. I love this time of year. I'll get some prediction videos out there. Hopefully work isn't too bad so I can get some more content and videos made for you guys. We'll see what I can do. No guarantees as always. And of course, a big shout out to everybody for a great Canadian Thanksgiving this upcoming weekend. I hope everybody has some great family time. I'll be trying to watch as much baseball as I can. I may have to shoot a video on the road. We'll see what happens. So until next time, take care, everyone.